Alright, so this is lesson 6, air masses and fronts. The first thing you need to know, that an air mass is a gigantic chunk of the lower atmosphere that have uniform weather conditions. We need to talk about what this means. So in short, air masses are big bunches of air coming from certain areas, and the uniform part of uniform weather conditions is that they're all the same. So, second thing, they are named after the places they form. So wherever they form, that's how they get their names. And we're going to see how this works in just a second. So, looking at our map, the top thing you need to add is a big old blue A, blue if you can. Why do you think a blue A should go right there? Any guesses as what A should be?
Because it's cold there.
It's cold. A stands for
Arctic.
Arctic, yes. A for Arctic. Now the air up there, I'm sure you know it's very cold, but it's also very dry. Okay, there's not moisture being added to it, anything else. So, A is for Arctic. Up next, as we move down, we're going to focus right here. Lowercase c, capital P. And I won't even have you guess as to what that means. We're talking about continental polar air masses there. So an air mass that'll form over Canada can move, and often does move, into our area. A continental polar air mass is just simply cold and it is dry. The last one you see on the screen, MP, right here. Now, is this going to be as dry as the first two? No, it's not. MP stands for marine or maritime polar, and those are just cool, but they are wet instead of everything else. So maritime polar, coming from just south of Alaska, coming from Greenland, Newfoundland, Iceland areas, some cold and wet air. Alright, so the first three were cold. What are the next two going to be? Not cold? Warm? Hot? We are going to start with CT right here. Okay? CT stands for continental tropical. And is it going to be cold or hot?
Hot.
Thank you. And wet or dry?
Dry.
Dry. Nice. Warm and dry. Continental tropical, thanks for playing, is going to be warm and dry. Maritime tropical, on the other hand, these are the warm and wet winds. Most of our rain comes from maritime tropical air masses. Most of our rain, that is. Right. Here are all of the air masses I expect you to know. Please try to learn all 5, where they are and what their properties are. Okay, now these air masses don't all stay in the same spot. Believe it or not, they move. Now, moving air mass is called a front. And the two types of fronts we are focusing on, cold fronts and warm fronts. Okay, now a cold front is going to be a bunch of cold air moving into some warm air. Here's our warm air. Cold air is more dense, and as that cold air moves in, it's going to push this warm air up. So warm air ends up getting pushed up. Cold air forces warm air up. This warm air can start making clouds And if the conditions are right, it'll end up making a storm. So cold air forces warm air up, and it can cause powerful storms, is what I need you to understand here. And here's kind of our drawing. The nice dense cold air moves in this way, and that forces this warm air upward. And what might end up happening is you start feeling rain. So a person standing on the ground here just felt the air get a little bit cooler as that cool air passed, and then the next day or so might be getting a little bit of rain. Okay. Now the symbol for a cold front is a line with little half circles on it. Okay, those half circles always point towards in the direction that they are moving. So basically this line here, and so now this front is moving this way, moving into that. That's the symbol for a cold front. Now warm fronts are different. Warm fronts end up having warm air getting pushed upward like this. And overall, the front moves this way. But just like before, as this warm air gets pushed up, it can still make clouds. And what you end up with can be clouds and rain that lasts for days. If you've ever had a week of your life that was just mostly rain, it might have been a warm front going overhead. They take a long time to move through, and if the conditions are right, it'll make rain that just seems never ending, and raining for days and days and days and days and days. So warm air pushes over cooler air, and it can cause long-lasting rains. The symbol for a warm front. If a warm front's moving this direction, little triangles filled in, moving this direction, so it looks like this. And that's the symbol for a warm front.